Hey, this is Seth Juarez from DevExpress with Mads. Now, how do you say your last name in?
Which language do you want it in?
Let's hear it in the Scandinavian.
Oh, you don't need. You say Swedish. I'm Danish, and in Danish it's Torgersen.
Oh my gosh.
Here we say Torgersen.
Did you get that? Because that's we're going to try to.
It isn't. It's so hard that you can't even record it.
Right.
It actually it just comes across as
bleep bleep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, what do you do at Microsoft?
I am PM on the C# and VB and F# team.
So all the languages.
Yeah.
All the cool languages.
All the cool languages. All the .NET languages. We're one team. I'm a PM on that team working on the C# language.
Interesting. So you guys dropped a bomb on us today.
Yeah.
What was it and what were you guys thinking?
Well, so we had things that people were suspecting, which is that we were coming out with a preview of what we call Project Roslyn.
Right.
The .NET compiler platform is the official name. The thing that I think surprised people a little was that we were also open sourcing large parts of it. So that was a more surprising thing.
How much of it are you open sourcing? Is there parts that are not open source?
Yeah. Roslyn has several layers, and the most important and interesting parts are the compiler, which is, not just a good old-fashioned batch pipeline compiler, but it's actually a whole object model now built as an API.
Interesting.
For interacting with source code. Okay, and that whole part is open sourced.
Right.
Now there's some IDE integration and stuff on top that we haven't open sourced, and that's sort of the more VS specific stuff.
Okay. Now pretend I don't know anything.
I already do.
Why would this be interesting for a developer? What can you do with this now?
Well, so with Roslyn itself, you can do all sorts of things. I think that people should know that Roslyn is such a complete and faithful and efficient representation of source code that we build all our IDE features on the public API ourselves. There's no secret backdoor between the IDE and the Roslyn compiler. In either C# or VB, it's completely, we've hardened that API with our own demands from running an efficient, delicious, smart IDE experience that's way superior even to what we have today. And that API is available to whoever wants to go and build their own VS plugins or batch analysis or whatever of C# or VB code, transformations, code fixes, diagnostics. Anyone can go and build those, share those, for their own organization or for the world or whatever. And so really from having a closed system where we were the only ones who could enhance the C# experience with deep language stuff, really, and a few other guys, who had a deep model of their own.
I wonder who.
Now, yeah, they have a booth over there. Were you swearing on camera?
No, I said whatever.
You said. Yeah, they do have cheese sticks.
Yeah, they do.
And now we're sort of democratizing that model so that everybody can build deep language stuff to fit their needs. And it's really easy to do, like building a little diagnostic that checks your coding guidelines or
cyclomatic complexity or just stuff like that.
Probably, maybe.
Something.
Think about it.
For sure, lines of code, right?
That you could do. I'm thinking more like highlighting in real time, squiggle things in your code that are, equivalent to the kind of diagnostics that we have in the IDE. You could imagine things like, for instance, one that was shown in a talk today. If you have if statements without braces around the consequence, you can highlight that. You can offer a code fix that will fix it using the Roslyn object model to swizzle things around. Full fidelity, keeps comments and or your formatting and so on, and it's just really easy to plug your own stuff into.
So my personal opinion is a static language, is this big house, but the foundation is the compiler. You guys literally ripped it out.
Yes.
Put it back in. How do you dog food that kind of thing?
Well, at first it was really hard.
How do you build the compiler using the
No, you can do that. I mean, we had a fully functioning C# and VB compiler already, so it's easy enough to bootstrap, actually.
Okay.
The difficult thing is deciding, okay, when are we actually going to dog food in earnest here? Because the way we built it is, kind of a poke-through approach where we built, like, we had 5 language features or so in the first version that we would take all the way through to code generation.
I see.
And then kind of broaden out from there. So you pretty soon have something to, you have a structure to hang things on.
Right.
And get the architecture right and so on. And then that means as soon as you have kind of a critical set of features, you can start dog fooding for bigger and bigger things and kind of get it going like that. But it's been a long process. We've been at it for about 4 years, depending on how you count.
So do you guys use that compiler for everything you build now?
Yes.
Everything?
Yes. Since this fall we hit what we call the big switch, which is all of DevDiv went over to use the Roslyn-based compilers for all the C# and VB code. So we've been doing it like for about 6 months internally.
That's quite a test.
That was quite a test. And we were very nervous.
Did you stay up all night that night when they turned it on? Or?
I think I slept pretty well.
Oh, okay.
We have super good tests, you know, for compatibility and performance and all those things. We have an amazing test suite that we built up as we built the Roslyn project to keep us honest all the time.
So anecdotally, I heard that once you switched to the Roslyn compiler to build everything, it just got faster. Is this true?
There's some truth to it. There are certain differences in how we generate code that will sometimes generate faster code, and the compilation itself is, well, it's built in managed code now, and there's a little tax for that, but actually not much. And we parallelize much better because we have an immutable object model.
Oh.
And so we don't have to worry about shared state, and that means we can parallelize the heck out of the compilation process in several places, which means that the more cores you have, the faster the compiler runs.
That's interesting. Now,
so depending on architecture, we'll be a little slower or a little faster or a lot faster.
Interesting.
And also depending on what you're compiling.
So that's interesting. You mentioned immutability, which leads me to thinking about functional languages.
Yeah.
Is there anything new with F# or is it still the same goodness? What's going on there?
Well, F# evolves on its own. I mean, F# has already always been a compiler infrastructure written in the language itself. Like that is something that VB and C# are just coming to. And F# keeps evolving, and actually there was an announcement also that F#, which has been open sourced for a while, also now opens up for contributions, which they haven't done before.
Wow, because F#'s been open source for how long now? It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't even know how long, but the thing with F# is that pretty much at all levels, it's a language that we take more risks with and experiment more with.
I see.
Because they have some pretty awesome developers that can take it, and that would rather have us take risks on their behalf than be too overcautious. And so we as a team learn a lot from doing those things, whether it's new kinds of features such as async, or whether it's how we distribute it, such as open source, or you know, how we make it open. And so we learned a lot from F# being open, and kind of use that to help us do the right thing with C# and
That's
VB.
cool. Now, we as a company also have a lot of VB.NET developers. Anything new with that language? How's it going? Are you still committed to it?
So we have now for several years been committed to what we call co-evolution, which is why we're one team, essentially.
I see.
So we do everything together. We're BFFs. And
do you wear the same shirts? Does the VB guy come with the VB shirt?
Yeah, and actually it's pretty gross. We swap midday. We swap.
Oh man.
It is actually we're very deeply integrated as a team.
Okay.
Roslyn really helps here because we had disparate code bases both in C++ and both pretty crappy before, and now Roslyn is the C# parts are written in C#, the VB parts are written in VB.
Wait, so there's a VB Roslyn too?
Yes.
Oh, well, obviously that makes sense now that I think about it. So there's two different compilers, Roslyn. They're both open source.
Both open source.
Oh my gosh.
Both part of the same project. Both sharing lots of infrastructure where they can.
Okay.
Sharing architecture where they can't share code.
Sure.
And as you know, as languages, sharing more and more features. And so typically we have the same developer put the same feature into both languages. We have the same testers writing the same test for the same features, and it's really like deep integration.
So when you say VB.NET and C# are BFFs, literally BFFs because it's the same gal or guy writing the same feature in both languages and the same tests.
That is not unusual.
I did not even realize that. That's pretty amazing. Well, anything else you want to tell our viewers about C# or languages in general?
Well, yeah, so We do experiment with a few new language features as well.
Okay.
Because Roslyn is such a lovely code base,
Sure.
and because it's written in languages that we understand,
Right.
we're able to add a few smaller language features, like a dozen or so.
That's right.
And we, again, to both languages, obviously. And so, along with the preview, there are implementations of several new language features.
What
that
are
people
those?
can
I
experiment.
almost forgot. I'm glad you reminded me.
Right.
What
So
are the
they're
features.
I mean, they're all kind of smaller features that will help you get rid of boilerplate. I think is
Right.
sort of the main theme. A lot of those tend to address people who like functional.
Right.
And in particular, enjoy writing types that are immutable
I see. Right.
and have so far pretty much been punished in
Right.
C#. Like, we have features like auto properties that only work for mutable types. Like, you can't have a
Right.
getter only auto property and stuff like that. So several places where writing mutable types was so much easier than writing immutable types.
Right.
Now we're trying to remove that barrier, essentially level the playing field by adding features that make it easier to also write immutable code.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're going to do good parallelization, immutability is kind of a must.
Yeah. So we don't want to scare people away from that. We want it to be a free choice. Am I mutable? Am I immutable? Well, that should only depend on what's the right thing to do,
Right.
not, oh, the other one requires me to add twice as many lines of code.
Right. Any other language features that are interesting?
Yeah, there are a few fun ones, but they're small ones. I encourage people to actually get the preview.
Okay.
It's a little V6. It installs, it snaps onto Visual Studio 2013.
And it replaces your compiler.
And replaces your compiler in a non-destructive way. You can always turn it off.
Oh, okay.
Replaces your C# and VB compilers, replaces your IDE experience,
Okay.
and gives you some nice new refactoring experiences. Just sort of as a first showcase of what we can do with Roslyn. And you can really play with it in a relatively high quality preview experience.
Well, we should put a link to this. We'll probably put a link to it at the bottom of the video. That way you can download
should.
it and play with it.
Yes.
But boy, this is good stuff.
It's fun.
Well, thanks for spending a minute with me.
Thank you.
We'll see you later again. Thanks for watching and thank you for choosing
Thank you.
DevExpress.